Hello, hello, hello. How are y'all doing? I am very excited for tonight's podcast. I am going to be doing something I used to do a lot, and that is healing testimonies. Woohoo! Recently I got off caffeine, and Caleb and I went through like a week-long pain, headaches, and we got off caffeine, and then today we went and got a decaf pumpkin spice latte and went for a drive and la la la, and then now I have a headache, so decaf is not my friend as well, unfortunately. Really sad, but I guess it's a thing. My body's cray when it comes to caffeine. Anyways, so I'm a little sluggish right now, but I'm excited for today and what we're about to talk about and to share with you. Please leave a review and subscribe. That was amazing. I don't know what I was just thinking. I think somebody just texted me and I read like one sentence, and so sorry about that. Please subscribe and comment and leave a review. That would be amazing. And share this. I really, really appreciate it. All right, let's just get going. So I'm just going to start. So all of these are very recent. A couple happened in the last month, in the last week, and then like a couple happened like yesterday and the day before. So I'm just going to go ahead. So Everest is my son, and he was in the bathtub. Gotta get my yawn in, my podcast yawn. He was in the bath, and I was giving him a bath, la la la. We were soaping him up, and la la la, all these things. And then I looked at his eye. He was like all squeaky clean. And for something about his hair being brushed back, his hair is getting long. I'm kind of growing it out. We are growing it out. So his hair was pushed back and slicked back, and all of a sudden I looked into his eye and I could see like this red bump on the lid, and it was actually a significant bump on his eye, and I was like, oh no, I know what this is. This is a sty. I am not okay with this. Like, I used to get styes all the time, and they're super painful, super just uncomfortable, and they can really affect your vision if they get bad enough, and they're so just annoying and hard to deal with. Everest is always rubbing his eyes super hard, so I just was like, no, like, we cannot be dealing with this, like, this is just not gonna happen. So I was like, nope, Mama Bear to the rescue. So I just prayed, and I'm not sure if I just laid my hand on his shoulder. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I might have put my hand over his eye a little bit. I didn't really touch the actual sty. Excuse me. And so I prayed over it, put my hand over his eye, and I prayed for it to go. And then I think I prayed twice, and it was gone immediately. It was still a tiny bit red at the end of the shower, but then, so not gone completely, but by a couple hours later, there was nothing there. And so I was just like so thankful, so grateful to the Lord, just worshiping the Lord. It was so sweet of the Lord to take care of that for us, and I'm just so grateful, and especially, just being on my little baby. Anyways, okay, so the other day, just like 2 days ago, I think. Me and my husband's brother were on our deck, and we were just chatting. And one of our neighbors walked over and was like, "Hey, can you pray for me?" I was just like, they had just driven by, and I guess they had gone to the dentist, and our neighbor had had a root canal done. And excuse me, she was in so much pain. She was like gripping the door handle the whole way home. And it's a 30-minute ride home from the main town of where we live. And so she was in extreme amounts of pain. And she just told us what happened, that there was a root canal and she's having a lot of pain. Could we pray for healing? And so we prayed, and as soon as we started praying, Caleb started praying. Me and my husband, Caleb, me, and his brother all put our hands on her immediately. And as soon as I touched her shoulder, my hand got way hot, like as if someone just turned on a stove. And I was like, oh, that's the Lord. She's getting healed. So we prayed, and it went down to almost like a 2 or 3 like pain, and like level 2 or 3. Shoot, I must be ready for bed almost. And it went down to like a 2 or 3, like hardly any pain, she said. So we prayed one more time, and then it was like, she said it was like gone. And so that was so sweet, and she was just so thankful because she was in extreme amounts of pain, and we were grateful, and we were just talking about that the rest of the afternoon, just how faithful the Lord is, and how grateful, and just so happy that the Lord allowed us to be there for her, and that the Lord allowed us to help be a part of that, healing. So, another one, Everest had a little minor surgery recently, but he had to be under anesthesia. So if you know anything about that, you can't eat for several hours, in his case 6 hours before the surgery. So I had to yawn again. I had to, he couldn't eat after 3:30 a.m. His surgery was at 8:45 in the morning. And so I had to wake him up at 3:30 in the morning. I nursed him, and I was not able to feed him until after the surgery, and the surgery was 90 minutes. So he literally hadn't eaten for like 6, 7, 8 hours, which is crazy. And when he did, it was fine, the Lord, there was grace. I was praying, that there would be grace, and he wasn't really fussy leading up to the surgery. That was the Lord. I had prayed over and over again that there would be grace, and I had so much anxiety months prior to the surgery. How was I going to work, and not feeding for 6 hours? He barely goes an hour or 2 without eating, so how is he going to go for 6 or 8? So anyways, there was grace. He wasn't hangry at all, and he did great leading up to it, and then I fed him after, like I said, and so then later that night, it's time for bed, and I just don't have really that much milk to nurse him. Like, my supply had dropped, but I didn't know it at the time. I just didn't think I had any milk. And then overnight, I had little to no milk overnight. So if you know anything about babies at night and you're nursing, if they don't have milk, they don't go back to sleep. They wake up completely. So he was up at midnight. He went to bed at like 7, 8. Then he was up again at midnight, I think at 11. And then 12. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every hour he was up. And most of that he really didn't sleep at all. I think he slept for 1 hour from midnight to 1. And he was up again at 2, I guess, roughly. And he didn't sleep at all. And then the next night, same thing, no milk. I had no milk. I had hardly any milk during the day. Because you have the highest, your milk flows the most from midnight until noon in the day. Midnight at night until noon the next day. And then from noon until midnight, your milk plummets. Well, my milk was basically non-existent at this point. And then I realized on the third day of not having any milk that the reason my milk I couldn't understand why, and the reason was because I did not feed him for 8-9 hours on the day of the surgery. And so it had plummeted and depleted my milk supply, which is honestly an extremely scary thing as a mom, and that's your main source of food for your baby. Granted, we are trying to wean him, but he's not fully weaned. His main food is milk still. Like, we give him food 3 times a day, and he's eating lots of different food, but his main nutrients and food and comfort is milk. I'm drinking a kind of a detox tea. It's called Rehoboam. Actually, that's not the correct pronunciation. Rehoboam. That's what we call it. I don't know what the real name is, but it works for headaches and such and detoxing. While we were getting rid of caffeine in our bodies, we drank this and it worked like a charm. It's crazy. Back to the story. So, yeah, we had figured out that my milk was just depleted. And so, like, on the third day of having little to no milk, it was morning time, and Everest just wasn't sleeping, and he wasn't sleeping all that night. And Caleb and I were exhausted because he was helping me, and we were both just not doing well, bro. Like, just, like, up all night. And he is almost a year, so that was kind of crazy, and he never did that. He's been sleeping through the night since, like, 3 months, So it's just crazy, and so I sat up and I was like, Lord, I need your help. Like, I need this milk back. I don't know. And right before that, I had checked and I had absolutely no milk. He was trying to nurse. There was no milk in there. It was scary. And Caleb just prayed. He just prayed. And then Caleb said, try feeding him again. And I did. And it was like, all of a sudden, it was filled with milk. Both were filled with milk. I'm nursing. So, that's crazy. I literally was like, what? They were like, it was filled with milk. And I just started bawling. I just started weeping and crying. And I couldn't stop crying. I could not stop crying. I was just crying so much. I was like, how? I just, like, checked and there was no milk. Like, they were empty. And then immediately they were full and heavy and, yeah, crazy. It was a miracle. It was insane. Absolutely insane to me. Yeah. So last Christmas, I was at my parents' house and I was leaning on this table, like, kind of, there was some things in front and I couldn't quite get to this table. I was reaching down past the table to get my computer or something that was down farther on the ground. And I leaned down and the table was like on, not on a swivel, but kind of. I mean, it screwed on and I was leaning on it the same way it screws off, and it was towards the end for some reason. It wasn't like screwed on very well. and I lean on it. It's a round table, and I lean on it, and I go spinning, and I spin and fall. My ribs, like the table hits me right square in the ribs, and I can't breathe, and I am in excruciating pain, and then all of a sudden the pain's gone. Well, it's just a little bit of pain. Then Everest had kind of sat on me a couple days later, and then I was in so much pain. I couldn't breathe without being in pain. I couldn't sit up without being in pain. I couldn't lift him. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't roll over without being in pain. I had broken my rib. I never went into the doctor to get that x-rayed, but I was doing some research. Pretty safe to say, when you breathe and you have pain, you probably broke your rib. So I was having a really hard time because Caleb was in a very busy season. Was he? Yeah, I think he was busy, and I just couldn't. Everest was very little, so we were nursing him and having to get up in the night and all that, so we were having a hard time, and I'm in excruciating pain, I can't breathe without being in pain, and not sure what to do because there's nothing they can do for ribs, they can't do anything for ribs. So me and Caleb's brother and Caleb's brother's girlfriend and Caleb all got together and we prayed, and we prayed for Caleb's brother's forearm at that time, and he had done some damage to it in the military, and then lifting, and then we prayed for my rib, and all the pain left my rib, and Caleb's brother's forearm was healed that night as well, which is crazy because he has had problems with that for years. And my rib, I couldn't even sit up, and then I'm able to do whatever, bend down and turn around and twist my back. It was insane. It was excruciatingly painful, and all of it was gone. So that was crazy. I've never had the Lord do that. Heal my rib? Come on. That's insane. I was at work, and it was kind of a liberal place, not where I work right now, and place was super liberal. It was founded in Denver, Colorado, so that tells you enough. And so, most people there didn't really believe in the Lord. I felt like I could be taking a risk with my job, if I were to pray for somebody or take the time to do that. And plus it's a really busy environment. I was serving at the time at a restaurant. So, it was kind of a risk to do what I was doing. But I did get a word from the Lord that this person had uneven legs and pain in her hip, and so she wasn't even my table, and I had a moment. I was able to deliver, I think I delivered a cocktail or something to her table, and then I just asked her, point blank, if she had uneven legs and if she had pain in her hip and la la la, and she said, yeah, how do you know that? And I said, well, I just feel like the Lord told me. The Lord spoke to me about you, and He wants you to be healed. And so I said, and so I just asked if I could pray for her, and she was already sitting down in her table, and she was sitting in a booth, so I moved the table over and a little bit more, and I just held her legs up, They were uneven, So I prayed that one of the legs would grow out, even with the other. And as I prayed, it grew out even with the other leg. And she was shocked. She was just staring at me in a crazy look. She said she felt it move out, And all her pain was gone. And so it was then even with the other leg. And she was shocked and couldn't believe it, and so grateful and thankful. And we thanked the Lord. And it was amazing. And I just feel the Lord is going to do that and will use you if you're willing and you show up and you're just available to Him. Let Him show up and be available for Him to use you in this way, and for you to be a part of His great work. Just showing up shows that you have faith. And that's all He's looking for. Tiniest bit of faith. A willingness. An openness. Okay. So this happened a couple days ago as well. We were out to eat at a Mexican restaurant. And there was a lady there. It was so funny because we sat down at our table, and then after a couple minutes of sitting down, all of a sudden they came out and sang happy birthday to one of the tables next to us, and they put a sombrero on this one older lady, and then that was, then we ordered and all that, and then I had to go, shortly after that, I had to go, out to the car to get this cover for the car seat, so Everest didn't lick the not car seat, the high chair at the restaurant, so he wasn't licking it and getting sick or whatever. So I just had this little COVID cover thingy. I don't know if they were invented in COVID. Somebody told me they weren't, but I feel like they have never seen them till COVID. Anyways, and so when I walked in, I felt like the Lord was asking me to pray for her. And I just asked her name, and we were talking about the restaurant, how good it is, and this and that. And then she goes, I asked her if I could pray for her, if there's anything I could pray for her for. And she said, well, can your, she's like, I'm not praying much, but can your God heal rheumatoid arthritis? And I said, of course He can. And she said, oh, really? Wow. Okay, well, then let's pray. And I said, awesome. So we prayed, and I felt heat coming out of my hand and going into her shoulder. And I knew the Lord was touching her in that moment, no matter what was about to happen. And she said after that she didn't really have any pain, but that she had to move to feel pain. And she was so sweet. She's like, if I'm healed, I'm coming right back here to tell you. But I think she thought I worked there, it did not, it didn't work there. But yeah, I don't know where she's at this moment, but I just knew that the Lord touched her with the heat, and just Him talking to me and her needing something. I just knew that the Lord had touched her. So yeah, it was so sweet. Next, I was at a conference, and this guy said he needed healing in his leg, that one was shorter than the other, and his back was out of line. So I was really intimidated because I had never prayed for something like that. I only prayed for something like that one time before that. And I was trying to get it out of my head that this is something I did like I just kept trying to remind myself, like, no matter what happens, like, this is the Lord that did it. I didn't do it, all these things. So I went to go pray for him. First, I prayed for his back, I believe. I think I prayed for his back first. And I just commanded his back to come in alignment. And I literally felt his back pop up against my hand. It like popped up and then down and back into place. It was kind of trippy. I kind of like jerked my hand away because I was like, what? That's crazy. Kind of scared me. But he felt great. And then I prayed for his legs, for one to go back in, to be the same length as the other one. And it grew out a full inch. It kind of shook me. Like, I closed my eyes and I just prayed. And I prayed for one to come out and be the same length. And that leg that was shorter, it slowly, I could feel it moving forward and slowly came forward and then stopped. And it was perfectly even with the right, they were the same length. And all of his pain was gone. And I was just beside myself in awe of the Lord, because I had hardly ever seen that before. And it was just beyond any comprehension I had of the Lord and what I knew the Lord could do. He was so thankful, and we were just praising the Lord together. It was a sweet, sweet moment. I'll never forget that time. And then since then, I've prayed for so many people's legs to go back into, grow out. And I don't know what it is about that specific healing. I have so much faith for it. Sorry, I'm sitting outside now. This is the next day when I'm recording this, but I'm just looking at a bunch of pine trees and mountains, and it's just so beautiful. And there's some town close by, but it's absolutely stunning. Okay, next. This story. So I was staying at my cousin's when I went to a ministry school a while back, and I was staying with her, and she had told me that that she was deaf in her right ear the night before. And so I prayed for her, and then I went to school. She told me later that she went back into the prayer closet that I pray in. She was putting clothes away for her daughter, and I would pray in that closet, and she felt like a pop and a crackling, and she heard like a pop and a crackling in her ear. This was a few hours after I left. She heard some popping and crackling in her ear. And I told her that we would be, earlier that morning, I told her that we would pray for her. I'd get a bunch of students to pray for her, that she would be healed. She just needed to come to the school. And she was like, I don't know how we're going to do that. She needed to be at the Y at a certain time for her kids. She had a workout class, and then her kids were going to be in a class there at the Y. So she didn't know how she was going to work it out. But when she heard the crackling and popping in her ear, she grew all this faith and just came. She came to the school, and some of my friends found me and said that she was looking for me, and there she was. I couldn't believe she was there, but it was funny because right before that, it was on my birthday, and I had to go get my tire went flat in my car. So I was waiting for her, and she didn't show up exactly when we were going to meet. So I went to go get my tire fixed, right? And so I went to a car repair shop, And she called me while I was there, and I'm hobbling on like a spare, so I'm not going very fast. And she's like, "Are you here?" Like, "I'm here." And I was like, "Oh shoot, I'm already not there." But I told her I'd come back. I left, but I'd come back. So then I went back and told the people forget about it, and I came back, and there were already people praying for her. And her ear opened up a little. They prayed for her again, opened up a little, prayed for her again, opened up a little. Eventually, we had prayed several times. I think we prayed 3 times. And her ear popped open completely. She was on the ground. Everybody was cheering like crazy. And she was on the ground just worshiping the Lord on her knees, hands and knees. It was wild. It was wild. Everybody was freaking out. Like, so crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It was insane. She had been deaf in her ear for 15 years. And that day, she gained her hearing back in just one ear. The other ear, she could hear fine. So, that rocked my world. I was just working one day, and I was sitting on my couch working from home, and all of a sudden, this popped into my head that my supervisor had broke his foot a year ago, and I was just thinking, man, I wonder if he has pain. Like, I felt this weird pain in my bone in my right foot, and that really the highest bone in your foot, I don't know what that is, but it's on the very top of your foot. And I just thought, I think it's him. And so I texted him and asked him if he had pain in his foot. He said he always does in the morning. So, I said, I'm going to pray for you right now, and it's going to go away. And so I prayed for him, and he really didn't have that much pain at that time, but in the mornings he said he always has pain because it's stiff. And the next morning he had 0 pain, and he said it was better. And so that was like a combination of like a word of knowledge and complete healing. I love the way the Lord works. I just love that. Okay, so having a baby boy, I was holding him for months and months. Like, he wouldn't sleep unless we were holding him. After 3 months, we just had to be holding him. So my wrist and my thumb tendon started to curl and be tight in like a curled position. So it was in a lot of pain, and I guess it's something called mom thumb. And I looked it up because I was like, moms having pain holding babies. I looked it all up, and it's a real thing. It's when the tendon gets curled and tightened in the wrong, just in a tight position. So I prayed. I had several people pray for it, and I had just been praying over it. And it's so funny because I noticed only recently that it was completely gone. And I was having a brace on it and stretching and icing it and doing all these things, but eventually it just went away. Like, it just slowly disappeared. It was the craziest thing because I thought I had carpal tunnel. I'm thinking I'm going to have surgery. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm really struggling with this type of thing, and he healed it. So, praise the Lord. Okay, so this summer, one of the people in our community had burned their arm. Like, they had a huge burn, like boiling water on their arm, and it was blistering and festering and turning white, like probably 3rd-degree burns. And they went to Caleb because Caleb had been praying for different people throughout the summer, and people were getting healed. So she went to him and she prayed, and immediately all the burn marks, all the blisters were completely gone. Like, we're talking like raised skin, blisters, white, like completely gone. Well, I think she walked away for a little bit and then she came back and there was no marks, nothing red, no white, no blistering. It was like a brand new arm. It's so crazy. Can you imagine like burn marks, like 3rd degree, like intense, like hospital like type burns, and then gone. Yep. Okay, so I used to work in a prayer department, and people would call all the time for prayer. And so someone once called and said they had a tumor in their leg, I believe, and it was a tumor. I think it was in their leg, and we prayed, and it was completely gone. It completely shrunk while we were on the phone, and that literally blew my mind. Like, they said it was completely gone. Absolutely insane. Praise the Lord. I know I'm sounding a little blasé about this, but it's insane what the Lord will do. And I hope that this podcast encourages you, and please feel free to leave a review and subscribe and like it and leave a good comment. That would be amazing. And I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next podcast.